Hey Tony, it's Friday, and first off, to answer your question of the week, I'd say yeah, I'm pretty excited for Byleth and Smash. I don't play a ton of Smash, usually just when people are over, but I'm looking forward to Byleth. I'm not surprised that Byleth was the next choice, considering how popular Three Houses was. But yeah, it should be interesting. So what I want to talk about this week is the movie 1917. So Taylor J and I ended up going to see 1917 on Tuesday, and it was really good. Like, it was a really well done film. In fact, I would call it a cinematic masterpiece, but not a masterpiece in cinema. The reason why I'm going with that, so let me give a little background on the movie itself. So it's about two soldiers who have to go deliver a message in the midst of World War One to another unit that's about to walk straight into a trap, including and of that in that unit that's walking into a trap. Among them is one of the two main characters' older brother. Now, the whole movie, the reason why I considered it so awesome, the whole movie is shot as if it's one continuous take. The camera only jumps away at one point, and that's when the main characters are knocked unconscious. Otherwise, it's as if you're following their trek the entire way through. It was really, really well done. I now there have been a few movies in the past who have done a singular one continuous take, but this one just did it so well. The camera work was brilliant, in which you actually felt like not only were you walking with them, you felt that whoever was filming it actually had been walking with them, because the camera even jumped around at certain points as if someone was walking while recording, which was all in all really, really cool. It also got me thinking, in which World War One is so key to the modern world, but it's so ill represented in media. Now, you have World War Two is all over the place. I mean, I can't name you how many World War Two movies there are, how many World War Two video games there are. World War One is really, it's not quite a forgotten war, because that was definitely Korea. Korea is definitely the forgotten war, but World War One also seems to be not really touched. And I was talking with that with Jay and Taylor, in which it kind of makes sense insofar as World War One didn't really accomplish much, because World War Two happened. And World War Two is the one we really talk about, because World War Two created our modern world. Although I would make the argument that World War One put in the pieces for World War Two, in which I remember back in history course, we read all about the lead up to World War One, and we read all about post World War One to World War Two, because those were so important. But World War One itself, it hasn't really been touched. I can think of a handful of books that take place during World War One, a handful of video games, and a handful of movies. In 1917 was the first one in maybe 30 years, the first movie. And I find that really kind of disappointing, because World War One is so important to the 20th century. Now, back to 1917 though, in which the movie itself, like I said, the camera work was excellent. It was not by no means a perfect movie. And I mean, the storyline was fairly bare bones. A lot of the enemies the two main characters face are just faceless. So it takes away some of the emotional connection to what was going around them. But one thing it really did a great job of is showing how World War One was hell. Like, you get a really good look at the trenches and just how miserable they were. And you get a good look at No Man's Land, in which there are bodies everywhere. You just see rats eating them. It was, again, the cinematography was absolutely spectacular. In which, like, I don't think I've seen a movie in a long time that had as good of camera work as 1917 did. And, like, there were some interesting aspects of the movie itself as well. One of them was actually, one of the two main characters reminded me uncannily of you, Tony. He looked a lot like you. He acted a lot like you. And everything he said, I was like, I can see Tony saying this. I can see Tony doing these things. And that was a little hard because it was.
Honey, spoilers.
No, I mean I'm not going to spoil anything, but it was really hard because I wasn't able to stay like divested from the film because I was emotionally invested in one of the main characters who looked a lot like you. It was even funnier. It was his older brother actually kind of reminded me a bit of myself in some of the things that he said. I could see myself doing that. So that was really interesting. And I heavily recommend that you see this movie. It was really well done. And World War One has just been so untouched by popular culture. Like, one of the last World War One movies I saw was Gallipoli, and that was a 1981 film, back when Mel Gibson was pretty young. And that was a fantastic movie as well. But they were different films. 1917 was about the overreaching drive to do something or else bad things will happen. Whereas Gallipoli was more about camaraderie between soldiers and how poor planning and poor officership led to the slaughter of thousands. So I definitely recommend watching both films. 1917, I think I enjoyed more than Gallipoli. But it's been a long time since I watched Gallipoli, and I kind of want to rewatch that at some point just to kind of refresh my recollection of it. There are also a couple of other World War One things that I'm a little more interested in kind of getting into. I'm really considering buying a Battlefield 1. If I go to a GameStop and it's really cheap, I might pick it up because I've heard the storyline campaigns are brilliant. And I'm really interested to start watching more about World War One because I feel like I know about it, but at the same point, I really feel like I don't know much about it because we never really touched it. I sure know a lot about World War II because that was the big one. I mean, that was what built our modern world. But World War I is still a little bit of a gap in my knowledge. So, Tony, my question for you is, are you planning on seeing 1917? Because you should. Tony, I'll see you on Tuesday. Later, bro.